So, meeting come to order, it's the June 18th BBC meeting. Well, Mark issued the last set of his meeting minutes. Going forward, we'll have to designate a new meeting minute person.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as printed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous vote. Mail and correspondence, there was a few invoices from the architect, the OPM, and I believe M. O'Connor. So I signed those, they've been transformed, if you will, into the select board's mailbox. Senior Center update, Steve, you want to give us an update on the outstanding items?
Sure. I will touch on some of the warranty issues. I know that's not necessarily the purview of this committee, but they are, we've talked about them in the past. A few more things have come off the list. The hose bibs, screens, eye wash is all done. Speakers are completed. Really, there's only a few older things that are left. The lip and the asphalt, which we're going back and forth with Seaver on somewhat. The roof shingles, which are also an ongoing item. I'm drafting up a letter to send to Seaver to incorporate the roofing contractor also, because they both carry the warranty. We did get a letter late today that said the underlayment was compatible with the shingles, which we already knew that, so we didn't really get any new information.
Who is the letter from?
GF.
Oh, from GF?
Yeah, and because they used a Carlisle product under the shingles. A couple new things have come up. The wheel stops, we've noticed them on as far as the flaking and peeling of the coating. They sort of threw back the fact that they don't know how much salt was used, but I don't take much stock in it because we're not having any problems with the curbing itself. It's just the wheel stops. There was an issue with a carbon monoxide detector in the kitchen that went off last week, which was good, but the problem with that is it rang audibly in the building at the annunciator panel, but apparently because they were having a loud exercise program in the multipurpose room, the front desk people didn't hear it. Beth heard it because she was coming in the door at the time. That's one thing, but the larger thing is that it did not ring as a supervisory, doesn't come in as an alarm. The supervisory at the fire station, and the gas valve, from what it was reported to us, the gas valve didn't shut off. So Systems, who's the electrical contractor, was there today to look into this. I did not get a report back from them as to what they found. There is also, and we're starting to get emails directly from Beth at this point, so I think she's taking over the warranty items. There was an issue with the kitchen warming cabinets. Apparently, they're saying that they don't use them that much, but they didn't work from the beginning of occupancy, which is a little bit problematic, because if there is a problem, we need to know right away because warranties expire. But ultimately the vendor that was supplied them was notified, so they'll have someone come up. But I guess what I'm getting at more is we're coming up on anything that's got a 1-year warranty is going to expire on September 5th. So if someone doesn't look into something until 366 days after substantial completion, it's no longer under warranty.
Unless there's an extended warranty, it's just something.
There's certainly some things that are extended warranties, but there's a bunch that are just a 1 year. So it's just something to be cognizant of. Another item that came up, which again is reported that it didn't work from the beginning, was the gas fireplace.
We know that's not true.
Yeah. And it's really the height of the flame seems to be the current issue. So,
Is it too high or too low?
too low. And there's been other complaints about it, that it doesn't shut off automatically, which it can't. But this is new, so we went back and forth with the fireplace vendor, because the fireplace vendor said, hey, we put that in 2 years ago, the warranty's expired, because they don't understand how the warranty works. Long story short is they forwarded, again, because I believe it was in the O&M manuals, but they forwarded again the operational instructions on the thing. So we'll have to do a little investigation on that, or the COA will. If there's still a problem, they'll send someone out, but they want to make sure that there is actually a problem.
Do they have a service warranty on, service contract on that? Because
No.
having one in my house, I bought the house, it came with the house. I couldn't get anybody to touch it, because only if they put it in will they touch it.
Yeah.
So that's something that I might want to consider, is maybe they need a maintenance contract with them going forward, and then.
Yeah, I don't-
Bob,
Hey, Bob.
Hi, sorry, I'm late.
Bob, there's a chair down there,
Sit right
so
there, sit right there, sit right there.
I got it.
Thank you. Look, there's one in the corner, guy. Where I belong. Go sit in the corner, guy.
So anyway, I just need we left out this fireplace, and I was saying they may want to come up with a maintenance contract, if you will, have a service periodically. No one will touch them unless they install them. That's kind of a
Excuse me,
conundrum.
I missed the whole thing with what you said about the fireplace.
There's a concern the flame isn't high enough.
It doesn't move at all.
Oh, okay.
Do anything.
So they're looking at it, this is where Steve left off when you walked in.
So we did speak to the town manager regarding the warranties and getting some programs together for maintenance. And he claims that most are covered, but some will have to be reviewed. So whether he's only got about a week and a half left, we'll probably have to wait for the interim manager to come in and find out what needs to be done and make sure these things start getting covered as soon as possible. But I think we have to wait a couple more weeks before we can get any kind of an answer on that.
Yeah, because I know he did send me an email, HVAC was covered, and a couple other items were covered, generators covered, a couple of them were covered.
Yeah.
But I just feel we need to bridge the gap, what's missing, so we don't
Yeah.
get to a point now who we don't know who to call. Okay, I'm sorry, Steve, you can continue. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, yeah, no problem. The lawns, actually, I did go over and look at the lawns. They are better than they were, because we've had a ton of rain, but they're still not fully accepted yet, so that is, that's still an open item. As far as the audio-visual, which is not Seaver, it's Pro AV, the education room that had a power supply that needed to be replaced, it was reported that is now working. The digital sign in the corridor, I asked for an update on it. My understanding is that they came in and uploaded the software, but at this point, I don't think anybody knows how to use it yet, because there's some training that has to be done. So that's new. And then I know Ray Cord is working with Comcast for some of the streaming services, and I don't know where he's at with that. As far as closeout with Seaver, we may be having a meeting with them next week to try and coincide with before town manager leaves. And it may not be something that we come to a final agreement, but I think we need to touch base with them again. We certainly don't want to, we certainly want to have everything that needs to be completed by then. That's been our, sort of our guiding mantra on that. That's all I have. Oh, hold on a second, let me make sure.
Bob had a question for.
Look, yeah.
Couple things. One is the
pavement, the asphalt,
Hmm?
rise to the asphalt, is that being taken care of?
I talked about that earlier. It's sort of going back and forth with it, where with Seaver, our backup plan is to have DPW do something with it because it has not gone down. I was over there last week.
So it's,
It's an ongoing issue.
okay, so the roof?
Still reviewing.
Yep, same thing, yep.
And
Wheel
what
set.
about the alarms? There's been 2 alarms go off now.
Mhm.
Both of them are in the entryway. One was CO2,
Yep, talked about that.
and one was for the stove that come on and it, alarm went off.
It was the gas valve, is that
Gas
one?
valve or something.
Okay,
Yeah, we
I
talked-
know you weren't here, I'll go over it again. We did get that report,
Sorry.
we spent a little bit of time going back and forth on it. My understanding is that the CO detector went off in the kitchen. It audibly went to the enunciator panel on the front entry, which it's supposed to. Your staff at the front desk couldn't hear it because there was a noisy program going on.
But that's a
There's nothing we can do about that.
But that's a problem.
Well, were the doors open to the multipurpose room?
No, I'm just
I mean, I'm
saying.
asking.
If those alarms go off, where are they supposed to go? Does the fire department get any kind
Well,
of?
let me finish.
Certain
Let
alarms,
me
yes.
finish. So that's one issue with them being able to hear it in a local alarm, but that CO detector is supposed to send a supervisory alarm to the fire department through dispatch, which it didn't, as it's been reported. So Systems was there today to look into that. Also, the gas valve was supposed to shut off, and again, what was reported was that the gas stayed on. So those 2 things were being looked at today. We did not hear a report from Systems today.
The only reason I say that, I'm concerned that, when something like that happens and there's people in that building, they need to evacuate that building. Maybe nothing, but there's gonna be a day that you have to, and they need to be prepared to evacuate that building. If you can't hear the alarm, if the people don't know what the alarm means, then that's a problem to me. I don't know if anyone else has that issue, but I have an issue with that.
So Steve, can you, maybe you can, maybe you can't, give a brief overview? Certain devices just are kind of in trouble, which means it doesn't call the fire department. Doesn't mean there's a fire
No.
or it's emergency, it's just trouble.
Correct.
right? Then there's some items that obviously a smoke detector goes off, there could be a fire, then the fire alarm gets alerted, right? So
Yep.
some items are local and some of them go to the fire department. So to your point, and to Steve's point, it sounds like there was disconnect in the programming, which we hope was addressed, right?
Correct.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I checked with the engineer to make sure I understood how that particular detector was supposed to notify whoever. And they came back with, yes, it's a supervisory, it doesn't send off an alarm that you would necessarily bring the trucks to, but it tells you that there's an issue
Right.
that needs to be looked into. And again, I mean, as far, and having an audible alarm in the vestibule that you can't hear, it's set up so that you can, you should be able to hear it. So, I mean, again, I didn't witness any of this, so I don't know what the conditions were.
Usually doesn't send the whole signal, it's usually at the box itself.
Yeah, and that's what, it was at the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at what they call the enunciator panel in the vestibule. So that went where it was supposed to, it just didn't get sent out to the fire department. So,
hopefully that's being addressed.
yeah, like I said, Systems, who is the electrical contractor who put in the fire alarm system, was there today. I just didn't get a report back from them before this meeting.
Right. So once you hear back, you'll follow up with us.
Yes,
Okay.
and we've had a bunch of people on the email trail, so everybody is keeping up with it.
Okay. Jim, sorry.
On that topic, I personally have a problem, like Bob does, that any alarm should go through the whole building. If it's a CO alarm and it's only at the enunciator panel, CO is a problem. The building should not be occupied, it should be evacuated. So the alarm should go off through the whole building. Is this take a change order, or I think any alarm should not be in a separate room because you're dealing with the elderly, you're dealing with noise problems. It's an evacuation alarm because if that supervisory alarm, if Beth hears it, she's going to evacuate the building anyway.
Well, we don't
But-
understand what actually happened, but the way it's designed to work is when that gets tricked with the gas range in particular, it sends the signal and shuts the valve to the gas,
So-
but the exhaust hood stays on.
So
So
it
there is
eliminates
really
the
no
CO
danger.
danger, because it shuts the feed off.
Right, but the fan stays on.
Yeah.
Suck the
The
gas
range
out.
can't be on unless the fan's on.
Yeah.
Correct.
But my feeling is, because of the sensitivity of the people in the building, any amount of CO, or any other, I don't know how many other alarms are on this supervisory panel, should number one, go to the fire department, which, okay, you're saying it was a fault that didn't go to the fire department. Number two, it should ring an alarm through the whole building to evacuate the building, because it's already proven that having it in the front hallway, they can't, for whatever reason, they can't hear it beyond the door in the front lobby.
Well, to answer your initial question, yes, it would be a change order. It's not, it's working the way it's, with the exception of it going to the fire department, it's working the way it's designed. It's not designed to sound off all the horn strobes and so forth.
But it's not working satisfactorily to notify the occupants, because nobody's hearing the alarm. If Beth hadn't walked through the front door, nobody would have known the alarm went off. Okay, the fire department, if it's working correctly, the fire department would have showed up within 5 minutes, and then the building would have been evacuated or whatever. But
Not necessarily.
that part of the system I understand, but
No, but the carbon monoxide event wouldn't be there because it would shut the gas off to the range. Because this was in the kitchen. This wasn't anywhere else. This was in the
Only
kitchen.
the kitchen.
Shut off the gas to the range. The range would go off and the fan would exhaust anything that was in the kitchen immediately. So there wouldn't be a threat there. That's the way it's designed. Again, if the town wants to have an alarm, yes, I'm sure it can be wired to set up an alarm condition when the carbon monoxide detector goes off. But it would be a
probably be
But that's
cheaper
really
to
up to the
wire
fire
a light
department.
bulb into the desk.
Right. Supervisory alarms, and let me just preface this, I'm not the fire prevention officer, that's Deputy Robbins, I'm the operations officer, Deputy Chief. Usually a supervisory is what it says, supervisory, it sends an alarm to the dispatch, and it's a supervisor, just the captain usually goes. So it basically told them that the alarm went off. If there was CO throughout the building, there'd be another alarm, and that would be audible, and everybody would have to get out. A typical one is a sprinkler system. They have a tamper switch on it. If someone goes over and tries to shut the sprinkler system off, it's not going to send an alarm to the entire building. It's going to send a supervisory. They're going to call us. We're going to go down and try to find out why somebody's shutting off the sprinkler system. So a supervisory alarm doesn't go out through the whole building. It just beeps at the panel itself. So if that's what happened here, I don't know, it wasn't supposed to go off in the entire building. It was just supposed to beep at the panel to let somebody know that the supervisory alarm went into the fire department. It didn't, but that's obviously an issue. That should have come to the fire department, then they could have checked it.
So my other issue is those alarms should have been checked by the fire department and the contractor, and this would have been picked up. But obviously,
Well, they
something
were.
happened between when it was checked and passed.
Correct,
Yes.
correct,
And now it's working and not working.
correct.
It definitely should have gone to the dispatch center, and somebody should have gone out there.
So in a perfect world, somebody should have showed up at the fire department and said, hey, you got an alarm going off, even if nobody heard it.
Right.
Exactly.
There you go.
Right, but that
So-
typical alarm would not clear the building out.
Correct.
It's not like a smoke detector. But again, if CO went throughout the building, they have CO detectors, and then it would be a full alarm, and you would get the entire response for something like
So
that.
it sounds like his concern is addressed, it just wasn't programmed properly. Now that's been hopefully remedied.
Something
It
happened, we
should-
just
it
don't know
should
what.
stop. Yeah, exactly. So if systems gets back to us with the solution, if you will.
Well, they will,
maybe
it's,
puts it all-
it's their
Yeah,
responsibility.
it puts it all, maybe they missed it when they programmed it, it happens.
No, this was all tested before occupancy, so it worked Oh, you wouldn't have signed off on it?
No,
Yeah, so then how did it happen? We don't know.
Yeah.
Could be a bad valve.
electronics, I mean,
Yeah.
It's electronics,
Anything,
yeah.
Anything could happen.
yeah.
Bob had one more question.
There's a lot of stuff going around talking, that's good stuff that we're hearing here, but to me, there's a lot of things being said that people don't know. I didn't know that when you're in there, turning the stove on, you have to turn the fan on. There's nothing that says that. The fan doesn't come on by itself when you do that. There's a control, I see it on the wall, but it doesn't say, turn me on, right? You're gonna use the stove, turn me on. So there's a lot of things there, just like the alarms. A lot of things there that you folks know, I mean, obviously you folks know about them, but the people that are there, the staff that's there, myself and other people, that we don't know what it's for. And all, it's just, I think a lot of this stuff is just a matter of either communication or putting some sort of document someplace so you can read it so you know what's going on. I never heard of a
Only for the
stove
training.
having to have the fan on.
Well, I think there's two issues. One, there was owner training at some point, right?
It's already occurred.
Correct. And at that point, somebody was asked who should attend, whoever those people are. Beyond that, they can't train everybody. So the person who were trained should subsequently train other people. Second, you don't want instructions on some of these things because you don't want anybody to tamper with it. Correct? And the deputy chief will verify that. I mean, usually you don't want people to know this turns the gas on and off, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Unless they're trained to do so.
exactly.
So I think the problem is the owners meeting, it didn't expand to another group of people. So that a question
That
for,
should be training that's ongoing too, I mean.
well, they only obligated to do it once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't mean that it's up to,
Yeah.
it's, you know,
No.
the people here, I'm saying that it should be done.
So there should be
By
documentation
the
of
people
initially
that run the
attended
building,
and then
you know,
ask them how
run
it
the
works.
We'd be more than welcome to come if they wanted to.
Yeah.
If you guys want to set up a training with the fire department, what we can do, absolutely, we can come down and do that. It's not a problem.
But I recommend getting several people, not, one person.
You
Just in
have to
case
do-
you're not
you have
there,
to do-
Beth's not there.
right,
Who are the
right.
5 most important people that need to know how to use this piece of equipment? That's all. So that can easily be addressed. All right, Jim?
Pardon my French, but I'm gonna get myself in the shit with the senior center people, but having been exposed to what's going on up there for the last year, the first thing is the time delay in reporting things wrong has been a constant problem. Every time we go in to fix A, somebody comes out and tells us about B and C that happened 3 or 4 weeks ago. I have tried to emphasize to those people, I mean, there's only 2 town employees that are paid in the building. They should be responsible, and I know they don't, they're way too busy. One of them, I'm gonna say it, said to me that she's too busy to read the O&M, the operations manuals. And that every time she has a problem, like with the locks or something else, she has to call somebody else in. Yet the contractor provides owner's manuals, but the 2 town employees have chosen not to read those, to become friendly with them, so that if a volunteer works in the kitchen and the town employees know about the hood fan being on when the gas is on or whatever, or how to put the flame up. I mean, Dan and I tried fooling with the remote for a half an hour. We could not, and we found out it's been like that for 4 months. And we both shook our head. If it's been like that for 4 months, why didn't you tell us? But we came in that day. We come in to fix the valances and we're told about cracks in the wall. We come in to fix the cracks in the wall, we're told about something else that happened and I don't know if the 2 town employees do not know who to tell the problem to. It's not Dan or whoever the Vertex's representative happens to be, but I know for a fact, 4 months ago, I explained to Beth what the chain of command was. if she has a problem, she should go to Mike. The town manager is her direct superior. That's who she should be going, and she should be going to right away, not 3 weeks later, the flame doesn't work, or the doors don't work, or the timing on the locks don't. I'm so glad that the woman who's in charge of IT is in charge of the signs, because the messages would never get up, because the 2 town employees choose not to read the operations manual.
Yeah.
So,
And we, Bob can give an update. This was addressed at the select board meeting when I gave an update that we need some type of facilities person at each location, if not one person,
but
to
it's a
address all
lack
these
of,
things.
regardless if you had a,
Yeah.
they drove the last facilities person out of the building. If you lose the person you had, you have a chain of command. Mike Units, and I'll say it a million times until he leaves, is the person to go to. And he's to go to the day it happens. Not send Steve a letter that, oh, the enunciator panel, I couldn't hear it. They should have gone to Mike Units or whoever his replacement should be. But there just seems to be a lack of communications, and we're getting down to the, and Bob brought this up, Beth has, let's say, 6 volunteers that come in. She has probably 3 core volunteers. She should be teaching, if there's one person that's in charge of the kitchen, she should be teaching them how to operate everything in the kitchen.
Correct.
But that's not happening. What's happening is something goes wrong and everything stops there and it comes back to the OPM, and when he's gone in 4 months, it's gonna come back to us, and we're not, okay, 4 years.
4 days.
Because that's by the time you get the lawn straightened out. But then they'll start coming back to us, and we're gonna have to explain to them again that Mike Units, or whoever the town manager is the person you should go to, because there is no facilities manager that's willing to go to the senior center.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
So do you have these discussions as part of your staff meetings at the senior center, whether it be the 2 paid employees and the volunteers, or the friends of the council on aging, or whatever?
We just started meeting with Beth, the first Monday of the month. We've had like 3 meetings since then, but, because that's one reason we started doing that, is to make sure we're communicating with each other. And,
Right.
making sure she's aware of things, and we're aware of things that are going on, so.
Right, because much of this, these operational process discussions are really outside of the building committee's jurisdiction. So what you just said made complete sense, but say it in front of the right audience.
Correct.
So
Well, this is recorded. I'm sure the negativity that I've expressed will come back in my face. They certainly can express to me what kind of idiot I am, but they can't express to get things done, even after being told multiple times what the chain of command is. It's coming back today. You say it's not this committee's fault, but he just brought it up.
No, well, the lack of communication.
These things
to the-
come into,
Lack of
Bob
communication.
Briscoe,
He's talking about lack of communication.
And not the whole discussion hasn't, much of this has been part of for
But-
example, the lack of.
Bob has a
let me-
list
let me-
of 3 things he's bringing to us.
Right, let me finish, Jim. So the fact that it didn't call the supervisor is an issue, that's a building committee issue, of course. A lot of these other items are as well, but probably 80% of what we're talking about here, you guys should resolve that in-house at the community center with the right people in the room.
Could you say that again? You don't want to say it again,
I don't mind
because you
saying
know
it.
it's not going to happen.
Well, these meetings are gonna end eventually, especially the community center discussions, and probably very soon, right around the corner. If they should have ended already, so you're gonna have to take it up on your own, I think.
And we just, before you go, we just talked about this, Bob, before you got here, that the kitchen warming plates aren't working, and someone said they weren't working from the beginning. Why are we waiting almost a year to find this out? And that's another example of what
I
we're
didn't
talking
know
about.
that.
Again, it's communication.
Right.
So if somebody knows something doesn't work, it should be reported to Beth immediately, and then sent the town manager to address. If somebody says, I'll wait till I see her again in 3 weeks, then 3 weeks has gone by, and that's what happens. Go ahead, Bob.
I have two questions, follow-up questions. When the enunciator goes off and it goes into supervisor mode, I'm not familiar with the system. I've had systems in my retail stores
Yeah.
that work that way.
Yep.
And it goes to a central panel.
Yep.
And eventually it sends it out if there is a distress. So I understand how it works, and it does give off a beeping sound.
Yep.
And I find it hard to believe that someone would hear it somewhere, but anyway.
Yeah.
My question is, when it goes into supervisor mode, are you saying someone communication, or someone gets contacted?
Yeah, what they'll do is they'll call, usually they call by phone, the fire department, and say there's a supervisory alarm. You know, if, obviously if they're not there, they'll call them on the radio.
So,
like-
I'm just trying to be, I'm trying to be clear on this.
Yep.
You get the enunciator, you get the alarm, you call the senior center and let them know?
No, we go, if it's a supervisory, it sends it to SEMREC, to the dispatch center, and
Okay.
they either call, and then usually the captain will go there alone in the car, not even as a response,
I
just
was just gonna say, couldn't someone just pick up a phone and call them and say, hey, by the way, you've got a signal going off in the building? You know,
That does
way You
happen.
don't have to send someone over even, just as long as somebody is.
They'll still go, and sometimes that happens.
You have to clear it.
Yeah, sometimes, we usually don't, we usually get a fire alarm company, but the extended stay is one. They have local alarms in the rooms, and if the local alarms go off, it goes to the person basically at the, when you check in there, and then they go up and check it out and see what it is, and if it's something, then they pull the alarm. So that's like a supervisory. So that's one that nothing comes in until they actually pull the alarm. But a regular supervisory like that, they'll let us know, and then we'll go down there and check it. It happens a lot with low batteries.
Yeah.
The power goes out, and they say, hey, we got a low battery at the town hall. So they'll go there, check it, and see that everything's okay, and then they'll say, get a hold of the fire alarm company, get a new low battery alarm. But it's not like an emergency response, they're just going there to check that out.
Yeah, and I understand that, but wouldn't it be worthwhile, I just want to.
For somebody to call, yeah, they can, I
Even if they
mean,
get in, even if they get in the car and go there, just call and say, hey, I'm on my way, but you guys have got a signal coming and you might want to check it out.
yeah,
You
I mean,
know,
they
I'll be there
could,
in 2 minutes.
yeah. I mean, like I said, they should be there in a short, if it worked like it was supposed to, it should have immediately gone to SEMREC, and they should have been there within 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it shouldn't have been a long time. Because they didn't get notified, they didn't even know.
Okay. And Steve, I have a follow-up question on the paving, what's rising up. You mentioned the highway department, which I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a good idea to put a roller over it and see what happens, as long as the town's not held responsible for it. You know, if something does happen.
Right, this came up early on, I can't remember, someone was gonna call the highway department, we said, no, wait, this is a contractor thing. If it doesn't happen,
Okay,
then this is the plan.
and I'm sure there'll be more than willing to help you out with it, so.
Yeah,
Just don't want the town to be responsible if
No,
there's a mine underneath it. That comes
no, there'd be paperwork that would
Okay,
be
thanks.
sent out.
Bob, no, go
My
ahead.
my question is,
Zach's
why did
going.
it do it in the first place? I mean, I can look at it, and I can guess why it did it, but, you know, from a technical standpoint, what's wrong with it?
Moisture was underneath the pavement, it froze, it lifted up the pavement. When it should have went back down, it didn't, it got hung up, because we've had issues with sidewalks.
Yeah.
Here, on my other projects,
So how do you fix that?
well, what we had talked about is, probably a proper fix, because I don't think it's gonna go down with putting a roller on or anything. I mean, you can certainly try. I don't think it is. It'll be cutting out a section of pavement, and not a small,
Piece.
something like that, and running the length and repaving it. Problem with that is there's a patch. You can see it, but.
And it's more apt to do it again.
It's a safety thing around the senior center, though. I mean, people come walking in and out. So I asked that question that, what do you do to fix it? Because that's what it needs to be done. Whatever it takes to fix it needs to be fixed.
Now, it doesn't mean that you're not gonna get heave this coming winter, because if moisture gets underneath, and water, path of least resistance, it's under something, you could have,
Lift it up.
maybe not in that front entry, but you might have another sidewalk that comes up. It's
So,
New England.
Mr. Chair, so Bob Kimball had mentioned a couple times about sealing the cracks, so moisture doesn't get underneath next winter. Has that been considered?
Well,
I'm gonna fix it first.
the issue with that is the detail on the sidewalks was pouring the sidewalks up to the curbing, as opposed to having an expansion. We got the expansions going panel to panel after 3 or 4 panels, but not that, and we've seen both details. But that particular detail is a better way of keeping moisture, at least from that side. But on the back side, if it's backed up against grass, it can still get underneath. And you may have it tipping this way as opposed to coming up like that.
Zach, you have a question?
I just want to comment, on your fire alarm situation. That's coming from, I own a food manufacturing plant, USDA plant, and I have these systems. How it's supposed to work and how it works in my facility is a supervisor alarm comes in, that does not go to the fire department. The alarm beeps, similar to what you see in the middle school, and I get a phone call immediately from the alarm company. I think the problem you have at the senior center is there's nobody on the contact list. Who's on the contact list for them to call? Because generally supervisor alarms do not go to the fire department. They go to the owner or whoever you designate, and you put 1, 2, 3. If they don't get through the first person, they go down the list. So I'm guessing there's no contact list. And that would not shut off your gas. The only time that gas would shut off is if you have an alarm, and that would blare all the sirens throughout the building. You're getting supervisory alarms. I get them all the time, primarily for my cleaning crew. They'll get something wet, and in the middle of the night, I'll get your system's in trouble, and I usually have to call the alarm company to come replace a sensor or something like that. But those generally do not go. I think you need to update your contact list. I'm not sure if that's going to be Beth first, her assistant later, the town manager third, or whoever the facilities person is, but that's how that system works. If every supervisory went to the fire department, these guys would be on the road 24 hours a day because, they're going off.
This particular supervisory is designed to go to the fire department.
You ever meet Paul Schleicher?
Yes.
Paul Schleicher wanted every supervisor to go to the fire department.
You guys would be very busy. You guys would be very busy.
We are. We get them all the time. We get low batteries, we get Tampa switches,
But that's how it works at my facility.
Yeah, there's different ways of design.
Yeah.
Is that it for the?
Just a couple other small items, because they were sort of lingering stuff. There was a cabinet door that had been scratched. Seaver sent that out to be refinished. That's been reinstalled. The drywall cracks, they came in, they put expansion joints at the cracks, patched and painted, and they also secured the window shade chains to the trim with the clips. So, a few small items. But that's all I have for senior center. Oh, and as we know, the electronic messaging sign is operational.
No.
First night it was on, we got a complaint it was too red.
I heard, yes. Well, there was an issue with that because it was on all night, and it was supposed to, the bylaw says off at 11, on at 6 or something like that. So it was sort of a good heads up. And I think they changed the background color because it was pink or something like that.
Yeah, they did.
So Bob, I had a question about the key fobs. Some of them aren't working correctly. I think it's just a programming issue. But again, that's one of the owner training issues, how to, program and stuff like that. So again, I think it's a quick.
But just to go back to the training and stuff, the certain people attended to training that are no longer going to the senior center. So that's the guy that knows how to do the programming. If there is, but here's the other, haven't heard that there's a problem with the fobs until just now.
Yeah.
So,
It can also get messed up with magnets too.
She emailed that out to somebody.
Deprogram.
I think it
Is that
was
right?
Chris or Mike or whoever.
I don't know.
I guess it's not.
I had a problem with mine, I just got it. I called because I couldn't get the mail. Chris did something and the next day I had the middle.
Because a lot of it you can
Just a
probably do
hookup.
remotely.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't have to go there.
I never had to go to him, he just did
I
it.
think the
90%
problem
of it's
is,
programming.
Yeah.
yeah, I think initially Chris was kind of the facilities designee, and he's kind of stepped away from that. So to the
Correct.
chief's point, and Zach's point, everything probably was going to him, and I'm not saying he's ignoring it, but it's not being addressed anymore. I think someone else needs to take that place.
As far as supervisor,
Or anything,
I don't
anything, you know.
think he's on,
If he did the owner training and he's not the owner's rep anymore,
wasn't
if
on
you
the
will,
list.
then
Yeah.
what's the point? You need to train somebody else. But the contractor doesn't own training anybody else, so it'd have to be internal training.
That's
from-
why they were all videoed.
yeah.
There you go.
And he's got all the, I think there's 2 sets of O&Ms and thumb drives that were submitted. I believe one set is at the senior center now, isn't it?
The manuals are there,
Yep.
and there was one fob. Is it 2 fobs? Because I looked on one fob, I looked on one fob, and there's hardly any, there's about 4 little things of training.
USB drive, I mean?
Yeah, USB.
Little thumb drive.
Yeah, thumb drive. But it's gotta be another one then. This is all the training you're talking about.
Well, there'd be HVAC training, electrical training,
No.
plumbing training, fire protection, sprinkler, a host of things.
The kitchen equipment.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's not on there. She can't find it, so.
No. It was delivered here. I don't know how it got to you.
And again,
But they were delivered here, both sets were delivered to town
and
hall.
that again, could be something where, and again, not pointing the finger at Chris, but he may have it and doesn't either know what it is or just didn't pass it down to the next person. So it's a possibility, it's around somewhere. Just a question that has to be asked, where is it?
I believe it was put all on the town network too, wasn't it?
I don't know.
That's another question that should be answered.
I mean, that would be a good idea, because if you lose a thumb drive,
Yeah, you have it on the
You got
server,
it.
put in a backup drive somewhere.
yeah. I don't know the answer to that
So
question.
that's a question I think
It's an
Mike would have
internal
to
thing
track
for the
down.
town.
You know, where did that go? Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Town hall?
Town hall. Update on the Plaza Concrete. Last week, M. O'Connor said that they were soliciting bids for repairs to the front plaza for submission for us to review and review what the proposal is for the fix. We have not received those as of yet. I'm gonna be reminding them because the week's half over. So that, I mean, obviously the Plaza Concrete is functioning to walk across, but it's still the aesthetic issue.
Steve, again, moment, you've probably seen this thing in the hallway out here, there's a big block with a town seal on it. Are you aware of what that's for? If you walk out the door and take a right, there's a big concrete
Granite stone.
granite
Yep.
stone
Yep.
with a town seal. That was going to be used in the town bike path. And they thought we should bring it here. And if anything is done out front, maybe it could be set into the concrete. I'm just letting you know that, because I started asking questions. about
Okay, I
it.
hadn't heard any of
And
that.
I'm sure you haven't.
Right.
So I'm just bringing that up. Not that it has to be done, I'm just saying that's,
It was supposed to be what was just finished up down the road?
no, like if you do something out here in front of the building,
Yeah.
you tear it up, if you.
No, but I'm
want-
saying that's where it came from?
No,
Oh,
no, it was originally purchased for the bike trail.
okay.
We have a new bike trail.
Yes.
Just finalizing it now, state DOT's finishing it up. For some reason, they bought this big granite block with a town seal on it. It's sitting on the floor out here by the desk. And I asked about it, and they suggested that maybe it could be put around this building somewhere.
We'll have to look at it. Maybe it probably would be better off in a
Planting
mulch
bin.
area, yeah.
Where, yeah.
If it's heavy enough, it's just gonna sit there, yeah, right.
It weighs a ton.
You don't have to anchor it. Okay?
Then it becomes a projectile.
Yeah, just as an update, I think you've all seen it, that the milling of the asphalt around the fire station and all the top coat paving was done this past Friday, along with some of the traffic signage and the stair railings out in front of the area that was the old town hall. They are planning on doing the striping this coming Friday. Landscaper, we've been going back and forth with him because he's beyond his seeding date, but the loam areas are starting to weed up. My understanding is that they're supposed to be shooting it next week with hydroseed.
At least to just stabilize it.
Yep, just as a tackifier, I guess. But I mean, the weeds are already starting to pop, so. The only things that are left right now is getting a final inspection from the building commissioner. You guys had gone through on Friday, I
Yeah, we did
believe.
it Friday, yeah.
And they were gonna get, we gotta get the affidavit from Cogswell and drop that off. So that'll take care of the sprinkler head replacements and extensions.
Yeah.
There's some bollards out by the memorial and then the seating. So this phase 3 change order is basically done. I don't know whether we can get in there. I would suggest maybe we'll take a look at it so you know what was done. We can maybe do that after the meeting.
Sure.
I'm sure you have access to it, get back to it, yeah. As far as the audio visual, there's, in the select board meeting room, there was a bunch of changes. We're at the point now where all we have to do is the final commissioning with Ascentech, the consultant, and the installer. That was the select board in the meeting room, AV. The Pro AV section, which is all the other conference room, there's been quite a number of changes that have been made to add work. We're working through what I'm hoping is, and I've said it a few times, the last revision, which is about $17,000 worth of work. I think Pro AV wants to be done also. They've been pretty good about entertaining a lot of different changes, I got to admit. But yeah, we can't have the scope expand anymore. So I think we're very close with that, and then they will finish up. We've done some swaps. For instance, the conference room that was turned into an office, we took that system and put that into the Conservation Commission's meeting room because there was nothing going in there. So that was an even swap, and not having equipment sitting up in the attic for no reason. Put an old display in the break room that came out of the old town hall, and then put one in what was the other one?
That was in a plan review.
No, he didn't.
No.
He didn't want one. There was one other room.
Conference room and planning.
It was break room. I guess it was break room and the conservation room, the planning department. He said he didn't want
You
it.
didn't want it.
So that one is actually a spare, but it was something that was taken from the old town hall that was still in good shape. And again, the digital electronic messaging sign here is installed and is working. I know that there was a glitch at one point where something that was being uploaded for the senior center ended up out here, but or vice versa, I can't remember, but that's been resolved. So that's all I have.
I think the signs look nice, both of them.
Yeah, it came out good.
Does Deputy Chief have anything to add?
Yeah, if
He
you
came
don't-
here for a reason.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
No problem.
So a couple things. First of all, I just want to say that Chief Simmons is flying back right now from Wyoming, but it's Wyoming, Minnesota, so it's not really a great trip. He basically was there designing a new tower truck and engine, so he wanted me to come here to this meeting just because a couple things that were said at the last meeting, and to give anybody an update on what we're doing at the fire department separate from what's going on here. So, Jim, I love you. I've known you most of my life, but a couple things that were said at the last meeting kind of. We had firefighters coming to us saying, "Are you guys doing something behind like the town's back?" And we've even had actually townspeople come and ask what's going on with the buildings. So in October 30th of 2023, Chief Simmons was at the meeting here with the Permanent Building Committee, and they were talking about the building. At the time, the building was still up, and there was a discussion on whether it was going to be taken down, or it was going to stay there, or whatever. But he gave pretty much an update on what we were looking to do with remodeling in there with, you know, basically the petition walls, the doors, you know, things like that. And he asked if the committee wanted to be involved with this, and the committee said no, that they basically at that point weren't concerned about it. It got brought up a couple more times where I know the chief talked to you directly and said, and asked if you know, wanted to be involved, or if the permanent building committee wanted to be involved. So it was brought up before, and then a couple of the things we try to be really transparent in the fire service. You know, I'm not going to throw any, you know, other departments under the bus or anything, but we try to stay as transparent as possible with everything we do. It's very important to us. And, you know, a comment that you made, Jim, was the fire department issue is going to light up quickly because they just got $300,000. That's what some people came and were discussing, saying, what does that mean? Where'd you get the $300,000? Where's it going? And things like that. I know you had said that you thought it was around $3 million. We discussed that a little bit. I'm not sure where that came from because we got our first actual estimate on the 11th of June. There was talk about us not having an architect. It took a while for us to get an architect. Nobody wants to do a small, I don't consider it small, but I guess to architects it's really small. So it literally took us about 6 months to get an architect, but we did secure one, and we've been working with them since January, you know, putting it all together. So basically, we just want to make sure that, you know, again, if the building committee wants to be involved, we're all for it. We're not hiding anything. We're not, you know, doing anything behind anybody's back, you know, as far as that goes. I'm in charge of most of it. I'm in charge of the operations, of the day-to-day operations, but this is being thrown at me. A lot of it, and obviously the chief is doing a lot of work here. The roof. We have 27 leaks at the fire department in the roof. We have cans everywhere. I don't think there's a ceiling tile that's not damaged at this point. It's been like that for years. So in 2023, they got a person to do an RFP on a roof and did everything and had all the paperwork, and then it just sat there and sat there and sat there. And literally 2 months ago, it got thrown at us and said, hey, here's the RFP, you guys go at it and do what you want to do. The problem is we had two HVAC systems up there, one from the 80s and one from 2018. The one for the fire department freezes up literally every year. It freezes up. It doesn't go below probably like 75. So I had somebody come in and they looked at the HVAC that was on the town hall part that was put in 2018, and we found out they got a system that's 3 times what they actually need. So the most obvious thing to do is they took all the duct work and they connected it to that newer system, and they took the other one off the roof. And all this stuff has to be done before we go out to bid for a roof. So they had to take one of the HVAC systems off. They have to patch that, which they did temporarily. They've done the duct work. They've done the HVAC and taken it off. When they went up there, the HVAC system from 2018 was never mounted to the roof. So it was just sitting there. So that's a problem, obviously. So that's part of the scope too. So they had to cut holes. They had to do so. That's is supposed to be mounted on Friday. So obviously all this had to be done before the roof. So we have the RFP. We're ready to go out to bid for the RFP for the roof. We just have to get this stuff done first. So we're hoping it's going to be done by the end of the week. And then after that, we'll go out for the roof and then go from there. Because it was tough, and I thought this would be easy. I'll just get a roofing company to come in, and they can do the work with a roofing company. And the guy from the RFP said, it'll never work. He says, you need to get somebody to do temporary patches, and then have them come in and do the RFP. So that's kind of where we are right now. So the HVAC system is good. The roof is going to get done. As far as the architect is concerned.
Excuse me, Deputy, before you go on, the roof itself, the money to repair it.
Yeah. So I was told, and again, we constantly are dealing with the town manager and James as far as the accountant, and I've been told from day one, it's there, the money's there, the money's there. I found out they're borrowing it basically. So all James told me is you can't do anything, we can't pay anybody till June 18th, whatever that date is. So apparently, I think, and what got thrown at us the other day is the DPW is doing needs a roof too, and we met on Monday and looked at the possibility of putting them both together, whether it be a cheaper price and things like that. So we are going to reach out to the person that's doing the RFP to see if there's a way, because it's theirs is actually less. It's less stuff on the roof. It's about the same as far as square footage. So Jared was going to reach out to him to see if You know, maybe we can put them together and put it out at once, and maybe it would be a cheaper price, you know, I'm not sure. This person did the RFP, writes the RFP, he's there for the bid openings, he's there for the pre-construction meeting, and then he's there at the end to inspect it. That's what we hired him for, and that's what he's already been paid for to do this in 2023. So they were gonna call and see if, hey, can we extend your contract, and what would it cost for you to add on that? Because we kind of look at it and say, we've gone this long, it's been 3 or 4 years leaking, what's another couple weeks to, you know, if we can save some money between the two.
Well,
So-
you need some water to put out those fires anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Just so everyone's clear, this money has been appropriated,
Has,
has or has not.
for the
The
roof,
money to repair the roofs.
the roof, I've been told that they're borrowing it and it's all set, that we can,
So just so people understand, you're requesting an RFP, request for a proposal.
we already have it. We have the RFP, we just have to send it
We're gonna
out.
get the bids. Town meeting has already approved the funding. for
Yes,
this.
yes.
So it's not like you're coming for any more
No,
money.
no.
I don't want people out there to be saying, oh, we got 2 roofs now, we gotta figure out how, we're gonna get the short-term or long-term borrowing,
Right.
pay for that.
Yeah, no,
We
that's,
already
that's
approved
correct.
that.
Yeah.
You guys are just a bit behind because of the improvements you haven't made.
Well, that and it kind of got, this was supposed to be done prior to this building being built, and it just went by the wayside for whatever reason, so.
I remember it, so.
Yeah, so, but it kind of makes sense, I guess, because I don't know, you know, the feasibility of putting a roof when you're tearing another building down, I'm sure that might have been an issue.
You're probably better off now.
Yeah, so going back to the construction part, the problem we had is we're trying to fund something that we have no idea what it's gonna be and how much it's gonna be. So we said, well, there are some stuff we could start doing. We knew there was gonna be some HVAC stuff, we knew there was some other stuff we had to do, so last fall, we put in for $300,000 to start the station remodeling. That's what it was put in as, it was always station remodeling. We went through the FinCom, we went through the capitals, Zach is here, he can tell you, we went through the whole thing, we explained to them that we don't know what it is, this is a start, we're gonna be able to start doing this stuff. Come the Springtown meeting last May, remember, we're doing this in like January and February, we just contracted an architect, so we really still didn't have a price at that point. So we said, well, we know it's not gonna be $300,000, so we just, again, went for another $300,000, and that's when, you know, Zach at the meeting was saying, maybe we should just borrow it, and I said, we don't have a number, that's the problem, is, you know, what are we supposed to borrow, as far as that number is concerned. So they did approve, so right now we have $600,000 towards the project through the capital. The money.
That's been voted on at town meeting.
It's voted on.
600 for both or 3 and 6?
300.
3 and 3, 600,000,
Six
yeah,
total,
3 and then 3, so 600,000 as of July
Not
1st.
including the roof.
Right, and that has nothing to do with the roof. This
Yeah.
is just construction, station, rehab, remodeling is what it's under.
And this came out of ambulance receipts.
100% out of ambulance
And
receipts.
not free cash.
Yep,
So
100%
just so
out of,
people understand that.
yep, it came out of ambulance receipts, 100%. So fast forward to the 11th of June, and it came in at 1.2 million for what we want to get done to it. Now, that doesn't include the general contractor, and again, I've never done this before, so you guys probably know this stuff. They said there has to be a contingency, a 10% contingency, and there's another 15% something, you know, as far as that. So they say it's all in with all that other stuff is probably about 1.4 when you pay the general contract, because I don't think it's something that we can do. We just don't have the expertise to do anything, you know, to that magnitude. We can, you know, do a room, but not something like that. We have a lot of contractors there, but to ask the firefighters to do it is just way too much of a, you know, something to take on.
So it's good we get this update, because I know I've been dark on this whole thing. I knew we were doing something, so what you said is great. And Steve can probably tie in, but was it 1.5 million you have to have an OPM? So stay under
1.5
Yeah.
construction, the construction
Cost.
estimate, 1.5 or greater,
Okay.
required to have an OPM.
They're
So-
saying construction is 1 million. That's what they're saying. They're saying everything, oh, I'm sorry, 1.2, and then everything else is.
Contingency anything, so extend to 1.5.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can have an OPM if you want to, but you're not required to
Yeah,
at
correct.
that level.
Because that would be another expense.
We have him.
But, and I think, me personally, I'm sure other people in the board, I have no problem helping, we just were left in the dark. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So maybe
Well-
we'll go tour, we haven't seen any drawings, we haven't seen an estimate, we
Right.
haven't seen anything.
Yeah, but you know, and again, I wasn't at the meeting at the time, but the chief was here and did talk about this.
That was a
You-
long time ago.
It was, and we're in I see Jim probably more than I see my wife sometimes in a week, so.
Well, I think the issue may have been at the time, we thought it was just a roof, and it was like, oh, you don't need us for that. And then it progressively elaborated into this $1.2 million project. Now it's like, oh, wait, we should probably make
Right.
sure you're not getting
Well-
in too far, and then we say, where do we get the money for this? We
Right,
have all the
right.
money.
Yeah, I mean, in 2023, we weren't even involved with the roof, so.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems like it's taken on a life of its own, and then tearing down the old building adds more
Right.
complexity, because your systems had to be touched and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
I think at that time, we just didn't know what you were doing.
I think the disconnect here is, I know when I came on this committee, there was the general feeling was we couldn't tear down the old town
Right,
hall.
exactly, we didn't know.
So that was about that time you guys are talking about. So
Exactly.
why would you be looking at improvements in a building that you had no idea when the other side of the
Well,
building was gonna
we
come up?
always knew we were gonna take that middle part. That was always from day
Yeah.
one. We always knew we were gonna take that, so that's what he was talking about, that meeting for the remodeling was that area. We didn't know what was gonna happen as far as that building. Yeah, truthfully, we were, and again, this is a side thing, you know, we thought we should keep it, you know what I mean, and maybe try to, you know, do stuff to it, but that's, can't do anything about that now.
I think another part of the confusion, at least from my point, and this is what I addressed at the select board meeting, is I don't know where our jurisdiction starts and the capital improvements committee ends.
Yeah,
Because that was one of the things where they got a bunch of projects in their mind. I have no idea what they are. None of us do.
yeah,
That's why I said we should have a joint meeting so we know what's coming down the pike. Because if it's something we don't need to address, we don't need to address. If we need to, we need to. We just don't
Yeah.
know. And I think that's what happened with that. It kind of was everybody wanted to get the town hall and senior center first, fire department.
Yeah.
We'll catch up. And
Yeah.
I just think it got lost.
yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, nice job so far, and I've been doing all of this work, and I might go out on a limb and say that you probably did a lot more efficiently than we would have done it through this board meeting twice a week. But now, at this point, are you looking at reducing the scope of the project to get it?
Because you have a double, right?
Yeah, I don't know, to tell you the truth. I know there's been things been thrown out there, like maybe we'll go out to borrow it and maybe do a loan and pay it out of the ambulance account. That was one thing, but we're not there yet, so the answer is I don't know. I don't think we want to reduce it. I can tell you that one of the things that we did do is have them give us a phasing project, and basically what we said is, well, I'll tell you what, there's like maybe 8 different areas. What if we divided into this area is phase 1, this area is phase 2, this area is phase 3? It's triple the price, almost quadruple the price,
It always
to
is,
do
sure.
it. So
Start
it's
off.
just not feasible. It just doesn't make sense to spend all
And
that
you know-
money to try to do it a little bit at a time.
And you're only doing it to spread the cost out. You don't need to do it. You don't need to have a phased project when you're not in the space yet.
And-
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right,
And-
so it's
and
just
I
not.
think you hit 2 good points. People forget phase projects cost more.
Yeah,
To start
a
and
lot
stop it.
more.
Second part is people start a phase project, run out of money, and then the third phase never happens.
Right.
You're better off biting the bullet and doing the whole thing.
Well, this is unique though, because the fire department has the ambulance account. That has nothing to do with our tax base,
Yeah,
has
correct.
nothing to do with Prop 2.5, nothing to do with anything. You've already transferred 600,000 in. I think the last time someone told me you have a balance of $4 million or something in that account.
There is.
Before town meeting.
Yeah, now,
Now, keeping in mind though, you also have commitments for fire equipment and all the other stuff you have.
right,
to
so
pay.
July 1st is gonna be
So that's not all
2.6
there.
is being taken out.
But if you go back in October, town meeting, throw in another 300 grand, if you have it,
Yep.
then you're up to 900,000, right?
Yeah.
And the following spring, you're
Yeah,
still
that makes
raising,
it
you're
way-
generating cash all the time,
Yeah.
right? The following spring, you come back with another 300 grand, you're just about there. You're
Yeah.
pretty close. So, to the point of, and I spoke to Zach earlier, according to, even if we had to borrow it, if it was a short-term borrow, you're gonna have to pay 4 or 5%, but you can get a short-term borrowing on it. And then at the next town meeting, if we can appropriate the money, you can pay it off.
Right.
You know, maybe it takes a couple of town meetings before we raise enough cash.
Yeah.
Maybe it takes a year.
Yeah.
But at least you got the money there, and again, we're not asking the taxpayers to come up with the cash.
Right.
It's money that's being generated by the ambulance account.
Right.
So I think it's a win-win for everybody, and I also think the smartest thing to do is to do it all at once.
Right?
Yeah, I just
Get
think
it
it's
done.
not even, just so much
And
more
just
money
get it
that it's not
And
even.
it's gonna have to be a chapter 149, I guess. That's a public job, so.
Yeah,
Prevailing wage, the whole bit, yeah.
Process, yeah.
yeah.
That drives up the cost. but
Was that a
I
bid
think
or was that an estimate that the architect gave you for that one point?
That was an estimate. That was an
Okay.
estimate that the architect gave, so.
So maybe.
Well,
might
the
come
two
in a
hands
little
up.
lower.
Let's go in the back first, work our way forward.
I'm on capital, if you guys don't know that already. So we've been working with Sean and Deputy Chief Wilson here for a while. Again, we gave 300 of the 300. For me, I want to see this wrapped up at the fall town meeting. Because the longer you wait, as you guys learned from this, it just keeps racking up. If we have to do, we'll see what the balance is. I know that select board voted to increase ambulance fees last night. We'll see what the balance is after James closes out all the books here. And, you know, they're running about, before your increase, they were running about $140,000 a month of revenue from the ambulance accounts. So that's coming in every month. I know they just passed an increase, it's probably gonna be $150, $160 a month coming in. So even if we have to do a short-term notice, Bob said, that would be paid out of ambulance receipts. It would not be paid out of the general fund. It would not affect the town budget. So I would like to see this, whatever, which way it goes, wrapped up for the fall town meeting, and let's get the ball rolling before we add another 500,000 to it.
Correct.
You know, because you guys know what happens with these buildings.
And it's like Bob said, you're approving it through the FinCom, but the funding source is the ambulance revolving. account.
Correct.
So,
And that ambulance fund has been a godsend. We bought a new tower, a new fire truck, 2 new ambulances. We funded their budget. They had a $235,000 shortfall. They were facing layoffs. We funded that out of that ambulance reserve fund. So that's a godsend for the community.
And we actually have, we have 475,000 in an account for an ambulance. But the problem is it takes 3 years to get the ambulance. So it's gonna be another year.
If you're
So
lucky.
it's not even like we have to take that out when we replace the next ambulance. So we're probably good with the ambulances for at least 5 years as far as that. So that's a good thing, that it's not gonna, you're not gonna have a big thing.
You know, I think, the question was asked earlier about capital versus permanent building. I served 24 years on the capital committee myself. And I'll tell you that is for the daily expenses that the town incurs through fire trucks and ambulances and police cars
Yep.
and all the standard stuff that's constantly revolving.
Yeah.
It's stuff we have to continue to buy. Now, we want to go on, we want to build a new doghouse. You know, that becomes different. That's when the permanent building committee gets involved and says, okay, we have to follow this from the ground up and make it happen. The day-to-day operational cost on capital, over $10,000, is strictly done by the capital improvement committee because that's their job.
Yep.
And for years, we have a 5-year plan, we're always looking ahead. This committee, when this project is done, for the most part, unless we have something major coming along very soon, I don't know what exactly we're going to be doing for a while until they need a new school or new fire station or a major renovation that might involve millions of dollars where we might have to get involved. But there is a clear definition between the two groups. And this group, as I said, will probably start to phase out a bit. That's why Mark's going to hang around a bit longer. We won't be meeting as much. But the point of the matter is that there is a capital improvement committee, and that's their job. I think this is a capital project. This improvement on the building, that was left of it, you know, once we tore down the other portion of it, that's a capital.
Yeah.
And that has to go through capital improvements, and then it has to go through FinCom, town meeting, and then we're done. So there's a process in it, but,
And we have been doing little things with that money, like for instance, we know there's gonna come a time, we have a basement, we have a bathroom in the basement that was the old police station, that now is the gym down there. Well, we know at some point in the project, the bathrooms are gonna be taken out and redone. So we knew we were gonna have to do something as far as that goes. So like right now, we got the firefighters that are contractors, plumbers and framers, they're redoing the bathroom in the basement. And we use the remodel funds to do that, so basically, we're gonna have a place for them to go when this happens. So we are starting to do little stuff in preparation of it. But I mean, we'd be great if we could do all, because all that was just paying for the supplies, and they did all the stuff for free, as far as that goes. So, we haven't used much of it. I mean, I think we've used maybe $5,000 of the $600,000, but that's towards to try to, when we finally do you know, go out to bid for it, we're ready as far as that
Well, that's
goes.
a win-win for everybody, because you're not only doing the work with labor you already have,
Yep.
we're not paying prevailing wages to get it
Exactly,
done.
exactly.
And because of all of that, it makes sense to do as much as you can as possible. I know I
Yep.
spoke to the chief last week, and I said, how about Southeastern Regional?
Yeah.
You're looking for plumbing, you're looking for electrical. He says, I want to take that wall down, but there's power in there and there's plumbing in there. We can't touch it.
Yeah.
Well, they have a plumber and electrical instructors that are licensed that could go in with some people and take it down.
Yeah.
If you can do some of that ahead of time,
Yeah.
it's just gonna drop the cost.
Right, yeah,
But when you start, you're done. You just want to do what they have to do.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that.
Yeah, I agree. But I misspoke, we only meet once a month.
Yeah.
So you definitely did it quicker than we probably would have been able to.
But again, we've been trying to find out when your meetings are, and every time I look, they're not posted, they're like sporadic. We can't foresee them because they're not once a month.
Yeah.
But I think with your improvement project coming up, I have no problem going to your meetings and helping out. Just need to know when they're happening.
Yeah, you talk about the capital?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of things
Usually,
there.
Does capital do it all the time, or is it just?
No, seasonal, right before town
It's like
meeting.
quarterly or something, yeah. it's
Right
not
before
there.
the town meeting, usually it's two meetings before the town meetings,
And then the
spring
other,
and fall.
and the other thing I always look at is if it's a maintenance issue, like, door breaks, you gotta fix the door, window breaks, you wanna recover it. Something that doesn't necessarily require a permit or a designer, that to me is just kind of, I won't say capital, because that's a subjective word, but that doesn't require much more oversight.
Right.
Once you start doing a whole roof, it's a capital, that's when you have to hire an architect to design it, you don't want the thing to leak. That's when it really comes to permanent building committee, because it's more of an
Yeah.
investment in the building, not a maintenance issue. I
Right,
think that is the distinction between us.
Right, and we don't-
There's a gray area.
Right, we don't have, like, we'd love to have somebody else to help us, because we don't, other than little stuff here and there, we don't have the expertise for it. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, it'd be nice to have somebody in town that just knows how to do procurements, how to do RFPs, how to do bids, but we're doing the best we can.
So we've had a little discussion around the distinction between what should come before the building committee and capital, even sometimes just expenses. I know that replacing carpets sometimes doesn't even go to capital, just the department
Yeah.
incurs the
They have money in
cost.
the account.
Yeah.
That's right.
10,000 or more, 10,000 or more goes to capital.
So we've had discussions, and it's almost, we don't have a dollar amount.
Right.
We don't have a size of a scope. It's more of the description of the project, like
Right.
a new building, obviously.
Yep.
Maybe an addition.
Yep.
I know that we've just been talking about the second floor of the library forever, maybe that.
Yeah,
Yours is borderline now because you're reaching that level where an OPM might be required, depending how
Yeah.
much the scope continues, or other quotes you get. I would think logically, if it's more than $1.5 million, if you had to put a dollar amount because it requires an OPM, then maybe it makes sense to bring it before this board.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, these have to be posted meetings, public meetings. We only, we can meet more often, of course, but if it's something that you're doing now, like you mentioned,
yeah,
then
I mean, like I
you don't want to
said,
keep coming before a board to get things done.
Right.
So,
Slows it down.
right, yeah, I mean, but at least now you know exactly what we're, like I said, I'm hoping that we'll go out to bid for the roof by maybe mid-July, and hopefully they'll start it, by September, that's what I'm, just August, September, hopefully, we'll see.
But there's an example.
Oh,
Those
they're all
roofs
booked
don't
up
come
now for
under
the summer.
the permanent building committee. Those roofs are roofs we already own that we have to restore under the capital improvement committee. So there's a delineation between the two.
Yeah,
I mean, that's something we have to do. We already own the buildings.
right, yeah, like we did a Windows project last year. I wanna say we replaced all the windows in there from 1978. That was like $72,000. I'm sorry, $42,000. It was kinda cut and dry, someone just came in, all the windows were all the same. But that's something, like I said, I have no problem giving you guys updates or whatever it is, even if it's something like that, you can say, does this fall into you, do we have to, but at least you know what's going on.
Exactly, I think that's what it was, just lack of communication.
So-
I was in the dark. I don't know. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
so the school department had an $8 million window replacement project,
Yep.
which was
Crazy.
funded out of the MSBA, so 50%. And I think the MSBA probably looks to see if there's a building committee, so they came and presented it to us and that kind of thing. But once it was approved by town meeting and, the contractor was selected, the school facilities director pretty much handled it from that point forward. We had every right to ask for updates on it.
Yep.
Because we were involved in the beginning. But I think as a building committee, if we don't establish at the beginning that it's a project that we want to oversee, then we should stop trying to oversee it.
Well,
let them do their thing and don't tread on their progress.
But at the
I mean, this
point-
is a little bit different.
But at the
Yeah.
point, we didn't know, like I said, it kept growing and growing. It was a small roof project or something like that. We was like, okay, this capital committee, what do we need to be involved with? Then it's turning into this much more, you're ripping down walls, you're
Yeah.
changing building systems.
I mean, it's been in his 5-year,
Yeah.
it's been in his 5-year plan for at least 3 or 4 years when it started, but like I said, it's,
But again, it's unfair, when they're halfway through the process for us to question them or to make comments that are derogatory. Honestly, that's my opinion, so.
I don't think anybody's trying to stop it or interfere. I just want to know what's going on.
yeah.
I get asked, and I'm like, I don't know.
The average person doesn't know Jim Slattery. I know Jim very well, so, but again, it's just, when we got people saying, it took us back a little bit when, the firefighters, some firefighters watch these meetings, so I'm not really too concerned about that someone brings up, hey, what's going on? But when someone from the public, comes and says, hey, what's going on? What are you guys doing in here? And I actually brought the guy in and showed him and said, this is what we're doing. That's when I got a little
I
concerned.
was out to dinner after the end of, I think it was lacrosse. A bunch of lacrosse moms. A lot of rumors were going around about these projects and way over budget, this, that, and the other. I said, who told you that? I'm like, that's not true. How do you know? I'm like, I'm on the committee. That's how I know. And that's the point, is I don't like getting caught off guard. So the more I know, and then you say, well, yeah, it's going to cost 1.2 million, but it's already funded, or is being self-funded, is like a better word by the fire department. They're raising their own money, just like the post office is self-funded. They just raise stamps.
Yeah.
So you taxpayers can relax. It's not coming out of your pocket. And then people go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they think I'm lying, but.
Right, yeah, they won't believe you.
But at least then people will say, wait a minute, where we spent another 1.2 million, why don't we laid off 3 teachers? That has nothing to do with that.
Right, yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
Different pockets.
Exactly, but I think that's
A lot of people
kind of
don't
where we're in
understand
the
that.
dark. Go ahead, Jim.
Yes.
Time to shine. You just took a
Thank you.
beating.
Chief Simmons, through Mr. Wilson, Deputy Wilson, said that I made many misrepresentations or whatever, and we just came full circle back to that. And I would like to explain what my reasoning was behind some of the statements. And you can take it or leave it. I'm not. First of all, everybody knows I'm completely transparent. If I have some knowledge that I think is logically true, not a rumor, I will bring it up so that it's on the table for people to think about. So let's talk about a couple of things. Number one is I don't ever remember saying that the building committee was not interested, but I may have said it based on the fact that I thought it was a remodeling job. It wasn't new construction. The only new construction up there are the hallways, technically. The rest is going to be demolition and reconstruction or remodeling. So I thought, in my judgment, that we wouldn't be interested in what was going on. I probably was wrong, and I've been proven wrong before. The second statement is, I said there was no architect. Mike just brought up, they didn't have an architect till spring.
January.
You defined to me what spring is. Spring was 2 months ago. So when I made those statements, they probably didn't have an architect. Because in discussions with the chief, he had said, because it's a small project and blah, 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 blah. We're having trouble finding an architect. And in fact, they didn't have one until spring.
January.
The $300,000 is obvious to anybody who goes to town meetings. It was passed at the town meeting. That's the answer to that question.
But Jim, you said I don't think it's specified what for. That's what you said at the meeting. that makes people think that it was specified for something else, but we're putting it to this project
Well,
that no one knows about.
Okay, maybe I said that, but I don't think it was specified what the 300,000 was for.
Specific station remodel.
Okay. But it came from the town meeting. The town gave you $300,000 for the remodeling, correct?
Yep, they gave us 300 and then another,
300, 600,000.
Okay.
Wasn't it
this
taken
is-
out of the ambulance fund?
Yeah.
Not out
Yeah.
of the general fund?
Yes,
And
I
in two
do
different
remember
meetings,
hearing that.
300,000.
It doesn't like
and
they gave it to you, they
I
just
mean,
authorized
that's-
you to spend it on something.
Put it in a separate bucket.
I mean,
Reallocated it.
this is a capital improvement,
And-
it says headquarters
And
station
another
remodel.
statement I have made, which wasn't brought up by Chief Simmons through Mr. Wilson, is I said the remodeling project would be probably around $3 million by the time they got done. We're at 1.2. We don't want to go over 1.5. Anybody who's done construction knows the price of everything's going up. They'll be closer to $3 million than they will be $1 million. I always said that was an estimate based on pie-in-the-sky stuff. But I think I'm going to be closer than the figures that are put out now, but we'll see what happens. And
Are we taking bets
again,
on that?
excuse me,
Are we taking bets on that?
that it's over
You've
1.5?
got a designer who's saying it's gonna cost about 1.2 with a contingency added, et cetera, et cetera.
It's
I'm up
still
to
the cost of the
1.4.
project.
They always aim high.
I'll come back at a meeting if that happens and I will
Yeah,
say I'm
whatever.
wrong and you're right.
Whatever, but I'm just giving you the reasoning behind the statements I said, trying to be fully transparent to this board and to the people in town that they should be aware of what's going on. And I said to Chief Simmons 3 weeks after he became chief, do you know you have, and I don't remember you have $25,000, and I don't remember the exact figure, in your budget for studying for a fire station up at the industrial park? You're shaking your head yes.
No, I remember
He
that.
did not know that.
Yep.
And I have mentioned here when we talked about capital improvement, Mr. Kimball has come to me about wanting a new DPW roof, actually wanting a new DPW building. He's probably rethought that now, but then a fire station. The library wanted, and this is all in the minutes, and I went to the select board, that capital improvement, the library wants a second floor that's unfeasible to that building, whatever. But again, I apologize if I hurt somebody's feelings, but none of this is false. None of it was, to me, a misrepresentation. It was just in the spirit of transparency. It is what it is. You know, people have asked me, why does the fire department want that building? And I've explained it to them. You want it for a training room? You want it for new bathrooms and bunk rooms? I've fully explained why they want to remodel the building. But, you know, if the chief took offense, I'm sorry, but I don't apologize for being transparent. I'm done.
All right.
One la-
You
one
read
last-
that thing
We
down?
still love you.
One last
One
comment.
last one from the
These
Phoenix.
two guys here.
Well, just between the board here.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion that, you know, moving forward, if we have a presentation or a pitch or that, you know, lets us determine through the town manager really needs to determine if these projects are deemed for our, if they need our level of
Oversight,
support,
yeah.
oversight. And if it's determined that no, you know, for example, in your case, then it's none of our business, to put it plainly. So moving forward, it's not our, you know, we shouldn't be asking them for updates if we've already decided that this project is not under our purview. And it's kind of unfair to do that. If they want to volunteer information like they made to the FinCom and updates, that's one thing. But I think going forward, to make sure that we don't have these issues in the future, that we make sure that we stick to the agenda items. And if we're going to talk about, you know, the fire station or the library or anything else, as kind of an ad hoc discussion, maybe a you know, strategic planning discussion, and it's not a project yet, make sure it's included on the agenda and stick to the agenda items, so that people like the fire department aren't blindsided by watching, a video.
No, I agree, and I think one of the things I've been advocating is one of us go to one of the capital improvement meetings, just so we're on, so we can communicate the rest of it. What's coming down the pike? Is there anything we should be concerned about? But again, like I said, if that project 2 years ago, whatever you said, 2023, maybe it was just a roofing job, and we said, okay, it's a repair, but it's grown into this $1.2 million project. That's different. So we can't, sometimes we can say no at the beginning, and then it gets bigger, and now, let's say they
Yeah,
now build the whole fire station, you can't say, no,
that's
you
true.
said no 2 years ago.
That's true. We
That
can
I think
modify
is our
it.
point.
And we have to do that through the town manager.
Yeah,
Like the
I think
chief would,
Yeah, what you say with the town manager, because none of this happens until we go to the town manager and get the first approval. None of it does.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great idea to have him be able to update and say, hey, this is what's coming down the line, this is what they're talking, because that's the person that's gonna say yes or no
Yeah.
at
And
that.
I'm gonna do a Jim Slattery 5-year prediction and say that this town will not accept, will not pass a debt exclusion override for a long time.
Nope, I agree.
Because until they get their general override,
Paid.
where they think we're really shortfalling, this town is gonna spend another penny on any capital that's gonna involve this committee for a long time. So, I agree, there are gonna be capital items that are gonna be dealt with. It's nice to know what they are, and we could do that. And I think if Zach even came once in a while and said, by the way, the capital improvement committee really only meets a couple times a year
Yeah.
prior to the town meeting. And that's when they do all their voting and all their
Prioritizing.
their recommendations.
It's important to understand too, that the town manager under our charter is a voting member of the capital committee. He's a voting member, so he knows all these, he votes on his projects himself. He's and he's the chairman of the capital committee. So, town manager is, fully knows if he should be bringing it to you guys, and, it's probably something you guys can go over with the new town manager that you guys hire.
absolutely.
There you go. Anything else? All right, I guess. Steve, you're all set, everything else to talk about?
I'm all set.
I guess we'll have
One
to.
more item on the,
Yeah.
are you done with the?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I think we're done with the agenda.
So as we know, Mark Gershman, this is his last meeting, and he has been, he's been a, we don't want to leave, because he takes his little scribble notes, and then you see like a well-done, professional document at the end. And I know he has to do this at work, to get these minutes done. Do you do this at work, or do you rewatch
The
the
CEO, he can do whatever he wants.
I'll read these minutes and I'll
You
think,
want the boss to know. He is the boss.
you read these minutes and.
He hands it to his secretary. What are you doing?
Well, he is a boss, so you can probably give it to anybody, but you read the minutes and you ask yourself, was I in the same meeting? How did I miss like 30%?
Well, you know what it is? Mark and I come from the same, arena, and you kind of chicken scratch stuff, points, and then you elaborate it out. You can't sit here and write word for word. You'd be here forever.
Yeah.
Just do bullet, yeah.
He's been doing
We
this.
should just have him update.
With his right thumb, he's been
His updates are better than ours.
Yeah, that's right.
He goes on for 10 pages of it.
So Mark was an original member of the building committee in 2015, all the way through the growing pains, multiple participants, different members.
Pandemic.
The pandemic, and then he figured out how to do this little spinny thing. Everybody can watch on the Zoom, so he
Took it on his
does
kitchen table.
that. He does that, make sure everybody has visibility on the Zoom, plus he takes the minutes at the same time. Andy posts, which is always a pain, the meeting agenda that you have to do, 2 days in advance, and sometimes you lose track of
She does
things.
it right after this meeting.
But he just kind of sits there and does his thing, and every once in a while, when we feel like we're falling off the rails, I'll look at Mark, and just from his facial expressions, it's like, okay, he knows what we need to do to get us back up on the rail, so we continue down the rail. But anyway, the select board last night signed a certificate of appreciation. May it be known that this certificate is hereby presented to Mark Gershman for 10 years of dedication and outstanding service to the Town of Norton Permanent Building Committee, 2015 to 2025, presented by the Norton Select Board with everybody's signatures. So we want to make sure at least you had something to leave here with. And,
Where was he on the high school committee?
You may have got the look, but when I was chairperson, I used to get kicked under the table.
and by the way,
And you liked it, but you're still sitting next to him.
He still kicks me under the table.
so by the way, Mark is a very capable person in his personal job, and I'm not going to tell people what he does, but you know, we need as board members, we need to check some of the boxes. You know, as far as an architect, a construction engineer. I think he's checking all of the boxes that we need right now. So the rest of us laymen, we don't have any boxes. So when he's gone, it's like, we gotta find somebody capable in order to replace him.
Sure. I'm not a layman. Speak for yourself.
Well, actually, yeah. Mark is our construction guy. but
I'm the construction, he was a lawyer.
We don't have a lawyer or engineer.
Engineer, technically.
Which one are you?
A lawyer.
He's an engineer. So we're looking for a new member that can fill his big shoes. You know, an engineer would be helpful, somebody that can do minutes. Post members, post meetings, you know, kick Jim under the table, you know, that kind of stuff. So I don't know if they've posted anything. I know when I came on board, I just kind of looked at the town website, because Kevin and I were on the high school building committee, and then it kind of dissolved. And then the PBC started, I didn't know anything about it, probably on purpose. But then I found, oh, look, vacancy. And I thought,
It was my
it was your vacancy,
Yeah.
because you left to go on the planning board or something.
Yeah. But I mean, 10 years is a long time to serve on any board or committee.
Oh, yeah.
And to be the only clerk for all of those 10 years, that's hundreds of pages of minutes in
I
and
know,
of
he
itself.
gave me on a flash drive, I know.
So, thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate it.
So I guess the next would be our next meeting. And I guess the question is, do we have enough items to discuss to have a meeting in a month, or is it, I mean,
When are you
do we
done?
wait 2 months?
When
I
are you
mean,
done?
when's your
I
contract?
want that to be the last meeting. I want this to be the last meeting. I want the last meeting to be the last meeting.
So I guess that's my point. Do we wait till there's, I mean, it's summertime, do we have to meet once a month, or should we wait 2 months? Well, I don't know.
We can make it, you know, when, if you want me to say, hey, listen, we're ready to
Close
give you a
things up.
wrap up, I mean, there's no reason to have a meeting just to have a meeting.
Yeah.
Just to be
exactly.
determined, to be determined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we can pencil in a date just so it works everybody's schedule, and if we don't have it, you don't have to have it.
Yeah, it's easier to cancel one than it
We
is.
can do the 23rd of July and just put, announce it, have it, and if it gets canceled, it gets canceled.
So,
If you're like a week away from, we can just shift it.
Mr. Chair, just
Yeah.
one question. At what point do we cut these guys loose? I know there's still some items, the roof of the.
When it runs out of money.
When's your contract up? When are you done?
Now,
Theoretically.
Are we paying,
There's no, well,
no
we don't have a
offense, but
duration
are
on
we
it.
paying every time they attend a meeting at this point?
Theoretically, but
An hour rate?
it's already built in.
it's not to exceed, he's
Don't
chipping
say
away
that.
at it.
Yeah, but seriously, I mean, like, this is it.
Yeah, it was built
We've been
in.
waiting for the last 3 months to have the contract to finish.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, they
Yes,
were
with
supposed to be done in April.
with
Then it
phase
went to
3
May, then it went to June.
With phase
Here we
3
are, almost at the
done,
end of June, and it's still not done.
Mhm.
so phase 3 is pretty much done, we're at punch list, right? Striping's going down, there's not, in landscaping, there's not much left to do. The only item that's really worth talking about is when they rip up the front walk. We don't know when that's gonna happen yet.
It's the what I'm gonna term the closeout
Yeah,
of the two projects,
correct.
which are not gonna be cut and dry,
Yeah,
as we've relayed. But we're gonna try our best to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, so.
But
again,
that said, it might not be in July.
yeah, exactly. I just think we posted so it's on the calendar, and if
yeah.
you're like, look, we're gonna be done 2 weeks, we'll push it off 2 weeks. Or a month, whatever.
I mean, and if we're talking about whether the grass is growing or not, I don't think we need to have a PDC meeting for
No.
that.
And you could send an email update probably.
Yeah. So theoretically, this could be the last meeting.
See what you did, Mark? You started it, now you
Started,
finished it.
So like with every other board and committee, the chair, just so you know, until we appoint the new clerk. The chair is responsible. For the agenda, posting the agenda, not the minutes, but just getting the agenda posted. Don't
I didn't
forget,
see that come in.
don't forget July 23rd or whatever you just said.
Yeah, I'll send an email.
If you don't post an agenda, you don't have to meet.
That's true. Send it to Charlene, right?
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I've chaired many committees and boards over the years. When I didn't have a clerk, I did the minutes.
Yeah, I haven't done that.
I would suggest that you know, also in your next meeting, hopefully, I don't know when the select board's gonna hire somebody, but I would invite the new town manager and bring him up to speed on all of this, because it's all gonna be new to him or her.
That may not be July.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know what your timeline is.
July 23rd. Not gonna happen.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Second.
If anyone wants to see where we are now.
We'll walk by real quick.
More than welcome to have you guys.
All right, meeting's over.
We just cleaned it up.